Today we're going to have an interactive moment. We want to understand whether sexual reproductive health is actually failing in Kenya, whether services that address gender-based violence are denied or neglected, limited. We also want to understand whether the situation that where violence arises, what happens to the gender violence, because that is the major concern right now in Kenya and in the world generally. We also want to understand, just from the concluded census, what is the system, what is the nature of the economy, and how is it going to be considering the population that Kenya is actually having. We also want to understand what actually is the role and the impact of ICPD. So ladies and gentlemen, today we are having Dr. Ademola. Welcome to our show.
Thank you very much.
First, introduce this, what is the ICPD about, and how do you came across something called the Program of Action, and which you've also discussed. Can you take us through this?
Well, thank you. The ICPD is an acronym that stands for International Conference on Population and Development. This was a conference that was held in 1994 in Cairo, where the international community came together collectively. Stakeholders representing member states, academia, civil society, the whole range, indigenous people, 179 member states of the United Nations, and then interrogated the nexus between population and development. Firmly looking at population not from the lens of the number, but of course from the lens of the people. But as we've talked about the census, we do always understand that it's important to count people before they begin to count. So they came up with a program of action that touched about various areas, including sexual and reproductive health and rights, technology, financing, all of those issues that were central to ensuring that people live the quality of life necessary for sustainable development. These things were supposed to be implemented over a 20-year period. At the end of 20 years, they took a collective decision as member states of the UN to say, can we extend for 5 more years to be able to see where we are. So now we've been at it for 25 years. The world will reconvene again here in Nairobi, and we'll look at the progress we have made and celebrate it, because indeed we have made progress. And then we'll identify what are the gaps that remain, particularly against the targets that have been set in the Sustainable Development Goals, and take firm decisions, interrogating the fact that we're at different points to accelerate the attainment of that promise. And so that summit will hold here in Nairobi, and that's what ICPD is all about.
ICPD is something called the Program of Action.
Yeah.
What is it about?
The Program of Action has essential elements which I've mentioned: sexual and reproductive health and rights, what happens in emergencies and fragile contexts, the issues of gender and gender-based violence, environmental sustainability, and then says within each of these, this is what we call upon. Member states, you are supposed to do this. Civil society, you are supposed to do this. Academia, we think you should do this. Individuals, these are your rights and these are your obligations. And over the period of time, you have to do it this way. These evolved and were also incorporated within the Millennium Development Goals in 2000. And of course, we are now looking at how it continues to be enforced against the background of the Sustainable Development Goals.
Okay. Earlier on, you introduced something about integrating the sexual reproductive health to the national primary health care. How do you intend to do this?
Sexual and reproductive health and rights talks about essentially the rights of individuals and couples to attain the highest level of reproductive health with regards to their sexual processes, with regard to their reproductive functions and its processes. Now, primary health care on its own talks about us providing healthcare services at the level that people need them, at the lowest level of the chain, reaching the people that are furthest behind and most vulnerable. Now, one of the most fundamental physiological functions that individuals have is reproduction. It's important that we safeguard that function. It is not something exclusively for the rich or the poor. All segments of society engage in sexual activity and do reproduce. And so it therefore means that whatever programs we have to address their health must address this key critical component, which is important for the continuation of the human race, the sustainability of societies, and the well-being of women and girls.
Okay, earlier on we also discussed about the UHC.
Yes,
Kenya, 2 years later, after the government introduced the UHC, the health system is still lowest in Kenya. What is the contribution of the UNFPA to this? And have you presented any bills in Parliament that actually oversee the sexual reproductive health and gender violence and all this related?
The first thing to say is that Kenya does not lack laws. In fact, Kenya has some of the most progressive laws when it comes to sexual and reproductive health and rights and gender-based violence, particularly the FGM Prohibition Act and quite a number. With regards to UHC, it was a commitment that was made at the highest level, and it looks at universal health coverage, ensuring that people do not suffer financial catastrophe as a consequence of ill health. What needs to happen is for government and the range of stakeholders, including community members, to look at the most efficient means of providing that coverage to the citizens. What we already have now is we've gone through a pilot phase where we have learned lessons. Systems have been strengthened in various counties. And just mind you as well, aside from the 4 counties that have had a pilot, various other counties by the governors at their own initiative have taken a cue from the president and have evolved their own systems. So I'm confident that if we actually tease down, looking at the health outcomes, at various county levels since this push for universal health coverage has started, we'll be able to record good outcomes, we'll be able to record increase in numbers. What we're doing on the other side of it is learning the lessons, that how can we learn lessons to implement and scale up. And I can assure you, given the fact that it's always going to be an evolving concept, whatever strategy or programs we have now in terms of the policy direction, years down the road, again, we'll have to continue to refine it to meet the exigencies of society. Advanced economies that we have in North America, in Europe, are not providing healthcare services the same way they were providing it 10 years ago. The system has to continue to emerge, and we have to then learn all of that against the background of a developing system, which we only started doing 6 years ago. So effectively, we are chewing gum and working at the same time.
Okay, are there policies that you already introduced in the Parliament for discussions?
It's not our responsibility to introduce policies. What we do is we strengthen the data management system. We provide technical support to the ministries of health, of gender, which are our key interlocutors, and provide support where they deem fit to introduce such. We provide support.
Talk about providing support. What have you done for the last, you talked about 6 years, and that it has kept on changing. What have you been doing for the last 6 years? It's now 25 years since the ICPD that took effect. So, and we've not actually been able to fight this situation about gender violence. What have you had in place for this?
We've continued to support governments at national level and gender at the county levels. If you look at, let's start 2013, you had the Anti-FGM Board, for example. You had the FGM Prohibition Act. You've had, even right now, we're having the systems and the programs to respond to gender-based violence. So we continue to support national systems and county systems. Some of these problems continue to evolve, and we also support the systems to interrogate the evolution and get the data and then rejig the programs. And that's one of the things that the Ministry of Gender and Public Service and Youth will be doing in October when they convene the GBB conference, to again interrogate the process to ensure that we're on the mark, or if we are not on the mark, we redirect our programs. Because society is evolving, and the agency of each individual to take action and responsibility also is front and center, so we need to find a way around that. So we support government with regards to technical support. We provide commodities for family planning. We support strengthening of healthcare systems, particularly as they relate to maternity services and reproductive health services. We supported the census and data management system. So it's part of the processes of what we do.
Alright. You had mentioned that it's actually, this UHC is not failing.
No,
it's not failing. Perfect. At the same time, you say that you're looking to support the government in other measures, but the UNFPA.
Yes.
I want to pose this question. What are the funding mechanisms that you have in place which will help fight or contribute to a zero rate gender-based violence, to a zero rate sexual abuse or anything?
First of all, I would establish that UNFPA is not a donor agency. So we're not donors.
So what are the funding mechanisms?
We're the United Nations Population Fund, which is a multilateral organization of the United Nations, the agency responsible for sexual and reproductive health and rights. We get catalytic funding from partners and donors, and then provide some catalytic funding to government. The bulk of the resources which have been used to address all of these issues have been national resources, resources of government. We just provide catalytic funding in some areas where there are gaps, but beyond that we provide technical assistance and help government to leverage good practices from abroad across a broad range of stakeholders.
For the growth, the population in Kenya is actually on the rise. And one of the factors contributing to this is actually early child marriages. Do you have policies you suggested?
No, government already has laws banning child marriage, banning early marriage. What needs to happen is for us to continue to help government to look at systems by which these laws are adhered to. This happens in some communities, sometimes far remote. How do we ensure that we have surveillance mechanisms? And where the surveillance mechanisms pick up an infraction, how do we respond to it? How do we ensure that the rights of the girls are not further violated, but are guaranteed more within their own societies, so that we don't have to keep removing them from those societies? So those laws exist. What we need to do is to continue to strengthen the systems to address them, and we have continued to see reductions in these things.
There's one major challenge, and it's evident that the most affected population in the rural areas, not the urban, and these services may not be able to get to them. You only to use the urban areas. What strategies do you have for the culture for that population in the rural?
We talked about major silence. If there's been a conspiracy of silence, we're also collectively liable, including the media, because you need to also help us interrogate as far as possible to ensure that the voices of the most furthest behind are heard. One of the ways we do that is to work with counties. At the county levels, we then, as much as possible, try to enable them to reach out through their own county departments to the furthest part of society. At the same time, working with civil society that have the networks and the reach. But what we found and what is universal is the fact that sustainable change and development is much more midwide when you have the national systems themselves, government at county and national levels or county levels responding. That's how you build long-term progress, and that's what we do. So we have a mix of civil society, but we also have working with government.
Are there obstacles that you consider coming the way of women in achieving their full potential?
Definitely there are obstacles. Gender-based violence is an obstacle.
When you talk about gender-based violence, you only be pointing out for women, because there's another body under the UN that caters for women.
Yes.
Well, ICPD caters for all population, but genders. So
each of the UN agencies have distinct mandates. UN Women's mandate is different from UNFPA. The mandates will overlap in areas of synergy because in many cases still one individual. That happens. When you talk about obstacles, there's gender-based violence, there's economic opportunities, there's access to healthcare services, access to education. Those are things that, and then there's the negative consequences of patriarchy as it operates. Some of these things are systemic, some are within cultures and communities. The approach to address them cannot be one cap fits all.
Let's head to the Vision 2030. And you hope to fight gender-based violence, improve the health reproductive system. We're only 10 years to that Vision 2030, and ICPD has been there for 25 years.
Yeah.
What initiative do you have so that you really ensure that Vision 2030 is attained?
If you look at national development plans, either Vision 2030 or within other systems or within other plans, it still caters for the same people. And it has various pillars that touches various areas. We as UNFPA would not do the entire pillar. We are not, for example, functioning within the economic space or entrepreneurship particularly. We function within the space where people have almost sexual and reproductive health and rights, and ensure data management systems, which allow the other people to optimize the human capital while having the data to take decisions going forward. So the other pillars, other agencies provide support to do that. But everything must converge in the fact that the average Kenyan must be able to attain a level of quality of life.
As a body, as an organization, which are the challenges that you go through in actually trying to fight this gender-based violence, trying to fight, to improve the sexual health? Which are the challenges that
First of all, of course, we have to raise resources, so resource is also a challenge. We would not, no agency has enough resources to do everything we want to do, that's one. Two is the fact that we rely on national systems, and so you might find that we have brilliant capacity in the State Department of Gender or at the Ministry of Health. As we begin to go down to lower levels of care and responsibility, the capacities may not be the same. We also have traditional gatekeepers and community leadership who, for personal, cultural, or political reasons, throw obstacles in the mix. But that is all part of development challenges that have to be addressed and navigated. And so it behoves us, in partnership and leadership of governments, to ensure that we navigate these issues and still keep our eye on reaching the most vulnerable.
So what choices do you have? What choices are we left with? Basically, what are you recommending in this case?
When it comes to a choice, we have no choice that it must not be left to chance. We must take firm, decisive action to look at the broad range of issues and begin to work together in a coherent manner to ensure that the rights and the well-being of every young person, every woman and girl is guaranteed as a way and as a benchmark and indicator for society as a whole, ensuring that reproductive health services are protected and are accessible, ensuring gender-based violence is eliminated, and ensuring that people have the information and knowledge necessary for them to exercise their agency in a responsible manner. We don't have a choice in that regard. That's the only way that we can achieve the development objectives that we seek that collectively benefits us as a society.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is actually Aspect Media, and you had a one-on-one, a very interactive session with Dr. Olajide. And as if there's no choice, it's on us to fight and improve the health reproductive system, sexual health reproductive system, and also fight for the gender-based violence. Now, guys, it's for the pursuit of rights and choices for all that's still going on. Until next time, in our next program, I believe we'll have another very interactive.
At your service.
Sure. So, guys, you have a nice day. See you.